Helps if I remember the mic. Welcome everybody to the last show before it gets crazy again. Um. So yeah, welcome to the weekly wrap up, where we cover all sort of things, wrestling, and other types of ling. Maybe. Um. So yeah, we've got a lot to cover. UFC, big stuff there, big stuff in New Japan, and of course the builds to all the stuff. Um, I guess build to AEW because of Fight for the Fallen that's coming up. Um, builds for Extreme Rules, which I'm calling it that because that's what the listing says over here in the UK for the pay-per-view. They don't even give a damn about the horror show. The horror show. Horror. Um, and also, of course, Slammiversary, among other things. So we'll start off with the roundup of the week, at least with the main few US brands. So Raw began with Drew, saying how Dolph gets to choose a stipulation, who basically says, "You'll find out when you need to find out. But you've left people behind on your way to the top," and brings out Heath Slater, which was an interesting surprise. Because I thought the out of contract star was Rey Mysterio. No, Heath Slater shows up. And, they only spoke once after he got released, and it was on the bump. And he mentioned how Drew said he petitioned to get him a match, but never did. And he's still out of a job. And, Drew wasn't happy, and Slater's like, "Give me what you promised me." And then he shoved him, and then he slapped him, and says, "Alright, you've got your fight." Both they were both basically in jeans. Slater sort of got in some early strikes, took off his t-shirt, ready, turned around, straight into a claymore. Half a minute, it's done. But then Ziggler yells at Slater and beats him. Well, sorry, Ziggler yells at Slater, Slater shoves him, so Ziggler attacks in return. Drew makes the save, and Drew helped him up and hugged. The interesting little tidbit with that is Heath didn't want to do it. It was Drew that convinced him to do it. I would not be surprised if this was in the works anyway, because there was some plans that Drew was going to face Jinder. So you'd expect some sort of 3MB style thing to eventually go down somehow. Then Bayley and Sasha came out talking about, we've got two people in our corner, so what are you gonna do? And Asuka's basically, like, "You haven't got a match tonight, Sasha, but I can give you one." And they're like, who's with you? And out comes Kairi Sane. The rumors are sort of not true, I guess. I guess that was the bait and switch. The word is, though, she still, wants out. Once her contract expires, to sort of be back with her husband in Japan. So we'll see how far it goes. They have a good little match, which eventually goes to a DQ because of Bayley coming in for the attack Asuka makes the save. Kyrie does a very good sort of insane elbow dive to the outside onto the heels. Then Aleister Black got beaten down by somebody from the Messiah crew because Black's got a Rey Mysterio mask on. And the Viking Raiders are all jokey, and then Big Show basically said, no fun tonight. We need to take care of Orton, Andrade, and Garza. Kevin Owens and the KO show and started the second hour. He threw out the leather chairs already because he knew that they weren't going to be needed. And they talk about the whole WrestleMania stuff that they had, and Rollins sort of offers to Owens saying, perhaps, you need to join me. You may have won at Mania, but that was at a cost. You were injured. You've always needed me, sort of thing. And then Ray comes out and saying, Kevin won't fall for this. I accept your challenge for a match at Extreme Rules, the horror show. But Rollins said, but your tag partner's missing in action. And he says, okay. He isn't actually, when you think about it. He's he's been injured, and Kevin sort of steps in and basically says, I'd never fight by your side, Seth. I'd always fight by Ray's. So Kevin and Ray get set up to take on Murphy and Rollins. The winning team gets to determine the stipulation, which made me think, okay, Rollins and Murphy is going to win, and it's an I Quit match. No, thanks to some shenanigans from Dominic, raking the eyes of Murphy without the referee seeing. And Owens threw Seth into the barricade screen thing. Mysterio gives Murphy the 619. Follows it up with the frog splash. And I guess, ta-da, Ray wins. And gets the mic, and he has the perfect stipulation for the horror show at Extreme Rules. Oro e oro. An eye for an eye. He's willing to rip out Seth's eye with his bare hands. And Seth's like, what? Kevin's like, what? The announcers are like, what? The audience in the venue were like, what? Everybody on the internet was like, what? And the long and the short of it is, the stipulation is, the winner must pull the person's eye out of the opponent's socket. Apparently, we're going to be using CGI effects in order to do this, according to the rumors. They are pre-recording this match. So, I don't know. So then the US title situation. basically saying that MVP is challenging Apollo Crews for the US title at Extreme Rules, and they basically say, no, it's only fair that a balling champion like me, when I win, um, has a balling belt. So out comes the new United States Championship, and I mean, I don't mind it, but part of me, because of how garish it is sort of not entirely approving of it, if you can call it that. It reminds me of the spinner belt. It's a little too. It fits MVP's character, but as a belt that somebody else is going to have, I don't know. It reminds me too much of the big gold belt from WCW, which is nice as a throwback, but then at the same time, does it need the in giant letters champion on it? Why can't it have just like red, white, and blue sort of style rhinestoning, or whatever you want to call it, somewhere on the thing in its design, rather than have champion emblazoned on it, as if we didn't tell? Anyway, so Lashley says, well, Apollo isn't going to be ready to wrestle, so I might as well just crown you champ now. And Ricochet and Alexander come out, and they challenge him to a tag match, which ended basically with Lashley putting Cedric in the full Nelson. Well, it was a spear, actually. Sorry, on Cedric for the win, but then he put the full Nelson on afterwards. Ricochet managed to stagger Lashley enough to break the hold, and then also get Cedric out of there before everybody dies. Then Garza and Andrade still bickering, but then Ric Flair says, "You're still good, guys." And then Orton comes in and says, we're all third generation wrestlers, which is true. And then, don't get in my way once I get my hands on the Big Show. And they were just like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The six-man was pretty good. There was an interesting little bit when Garza was not interested, yelling at Andrade. And Orton, told him to get out the ring. And Orton shoved him into the plexiglass, grabbing him by the throat, basically going, "You need to focus. If you went on the right side here, I'll put you in the dirt if I don't." I guess this worked well enough because the Raiders tried to double team Garza. Andrade made the save. Then Eric got RKO'd out of nowhere. And the heels stood tall. And the Iconics talking with Ruby Riott, saying how she doesn't know where Liv is, but she doesn't, she's focused on them tonight rather than her former friend. Then MVP's trying to get Cedric on his side, saying how Ricochet's had a special on the network. Why haven't you? Then Flair, congratulated Orton, but Orton's just focused on Big Show. But then R-Truth accidentally ran into him and said, Flair, you're very well dressed, despite the fact you're the dirtiest player in the game. But then thought, wait, you've got a suit on that looks like a gi. You must be Akira Tozawa. And Truth caught a glimpse of the real Tozawa and the ninjas. And Tozawa basically, was like, Randy Orton, what do we do? And Orton sort of went, he pointed him in the wrong direction as to where Truth went, which was interesting. The other interesting bit that's come from that, Orton is facing R-Truth this week. So I guess ninja shenanigans, because lol. Billy Kay beat Peyton Royce in about 3 minutes. I still don't know what this purpose is, other than Liv Morgan, maybe. The Riot Squad is coming back, because that didn't work. And then nearly 25 minutes for the main event of Asuka and Bayley, with Nikki Cross on commentary, which security said that, she had to leave, but the announcers said, she's okay. Except pretty early on, she sort of got bumped into and got, literally carried away out the building, supposedly. Except by the end, it was really good between them, and there was, admittedly shenanigans somewhat in the end, because Sasha gives Bayley a drink of water, and then once she's had a drink, pulls the rest over Asuka, and then all of a sudden, Keith Lee style, from behind the barricade, out pops Nikki Cross, with no mask, of course, because that's too obvious. Then Asuka puts Bayley in the Asuka lock. Kairi takes out Sasha when she tried to interfere with a spear. Bayley tried to counter the Asuka lock. Asuka reversed the counter into a cradle pin. Got the win. Asuka and Kairi celebrate. And I don't have that much of a problem, in all honesty. I like the sound of that. So, moving on to AEW Dark and Being the Elite stuff. With Being the Elite, Evil Uno on the phone with Brody Lee, who asked him to do him a solid and hit himself with a stack of papers, which Uno did. The Bucks tried to go to a Chili's at the airport, but it was shut, so they can't get their baby back ribs. Then talking about the COVID tests and how waiting for the results every week is scary, and actually showing the sort of the setup that they've got at the stadium for sort of the local area, not just them, which is a big long queue. Then the Bucks were hanging out in the ring. Private Parties asking about Matt's ribs, and they were fine. He said it was fine, and Private Party going, "You lying, son, you lying." And then it was the "where do you think you're going" bit, and Nick said they're dead ass, and Private Party just fled. Alex Reynolds and John Silver tried to get the fortune teller to join the Dark Order, which didn't work. The Bucks gave Avalon Cutler and Lever a pop quiz to determine the tag team knowledge, and basically Lever was great, Brandon was great, Peter was just not got the tag team mentality just yet. Then Colt and Kenny, which the Bucks stopped Colt, and basically they stopped messing with Kenny. They saw, Kenny wearing aviators, and he's put his hair extensions on his Amazon wish list. Kenny's gonna kill you. You better steer clear. Then Hammond Page said, "Christian AF." That's obviously what it is, and isn't it? No, Christian Armen Father. Oh no, Christian Always and Forever. That's what it is. And Hangman just says that's dumb as fuck. I'll leave it. I'll leave it at that for now because I don't. I can't go over the F threshold. Then Dark Order again tried to recruit um, best friends, which they managed to recruit apparently Trent's mom, but sort of got washed her out of it. And again, tempting Orange with the whole Fast and Furious stuff, and he just pushed the Kool-Aid away. Kazarian runs into the box, still doing his Michael Hayes, Terry Taylor, whatever gimmick it is that he's supposed to be involved with, implying that there's something going on there with Matt Hardy. Speaking of that, I guess Matt Hardy must have been possessing Nick to some extent, because Nick transformed into his merch freak persona, and yeah, he turned into different personas, while at the same time Hardy started off as Damascus, then Angry Matt, whatever you want to call him, that was like in the suit, then the first Matt Hardy, the version 1, but we can't call it that, then like old school Hardy Boys get up, then in a Young Buck style sort of gear, then invisible, despite the fact you could still see them in the reflection of the sort of glass paintings that was behind them, which I thought was a nice little touch. And then just back to, Nick trying to say buy their merch. Then the bit which they make fun of themselves, saying people are gonna blow this out of proportion, saying how at least we didn't have one of our wrestlers spoil the results on social media as to what's happening this week. So then Kenny and Adam are trying to meet up with a drink with FTR, so Kenny can apologize for the refusing the drink. And the Bucks basically said, are we cool with you, Adam? And he's like, I love you guys, but I don't like you, and I'm sure I love you. I loved you guys, but at the minute, sort of, I don't like you, and I don't know what's going on. I'll continue doing these bits that we're doing, but hanging out with you feels like when somebody writes "Have a good summer" in the back of your high school yearbook, which is the title of the episode. Have a good summer. So we'll see what comes tomorrow, along with the Road to Fight for the Fallen video that's coming out. But switching to Dark, we actually opened with Sean Spears beating Pillman Jr. in about 5 minutes. Pretty good match. One with the C4, and then the glove got loaded, and Pillman got knocked out. Then Big Swole beat Rach Chanel. This was not that good. Swole did her best with what it was, but her style is a very big clash with the style of Rach Chanel's very sort of submission style work. And yeah, it didn't work, I would say. Then we got more of the whole Dustin basically knows what Ali's doing and urged her to stay with QT and keep the Nightmare Sisters together. And Brandy said, I wouldn't go as far to say, we're family, but hey, I don't mind teaming with you. And Ali goes, that ain't a terrible idea. Then Kazarian beating Luther. Oh. Again, we have a clash of styles that doesn't work here, and Luther just like, no. I still don't know why he's employed, other than being an agent, in which case just let him be an agent. The Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Brothers got a pretty quick win on Brady Pierce, Fabu Andre, Joe Alonzo, and Tony Donati. Unsurprisingly, all four, managed to get their shine in. Orange Cassidy with a pretty quick win. Hobbs goes for the lariat. Cassidy evades. Hits a Superman punch, gets the win. Then Nakazawa beating Sean Dean in a somewhat comedy thing, because obviously Nakazawa went for the oil, and Aubrey Edwards basically threw the oil out. But yeah, Nakazawa did get the win with the Fong Claw. Scorpio Sky beats Serpentico in a very nice little match for the, I'd say verging on 10 minutes in terms of length, winning with a TKO, but that was probably the strongest match of the card. And then Dark Order beating Cutler and Avalon. But I do like the angle that went at the end here, because somebody, a Dark Order person confronts Lever, while the Cutler and Avalon try and sort of take care of the Dark Order masses outside. Uno, managed to somehow break up the pinfall, but then was having to be assessed by a doctor. I guess just to what happened, and Stu Grayson's looking for the tag, but Uno's outside. But from sort of against the odds, hits a Liger bomb for a near fall, and then the Nightfall on Cutler, and the Dark Order win. But it's looking more and more likely that Cutler and Avalon are winning somewhere down the line, given that they came much closer than they have done previously in their teaming up issue. We'll see how it goes for this week. In terms of the matches, let's see if I've got it in my notes. Yeah, Brian Cage is defending... Oh, hang on. I'll get to that. Brian Cage is defending that. If you haven't seen it, it's probably sort of given away something. Well, maybe. So Impact. Started off with Susie and Kylie Ray beating Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie. Basically because Bravo distracted Taya, because basically saying that Rosemary was hurt because she basically got palm striked by Susie, which took her out, and Bravo was obviously concerned for her, but Taya was distracted, which allowed Kylie Ray to put the STTF and get the submission win. Then Chris Bay told Johnny Swinger, you messed up. I can't. You can't be by my side for Slammiversary. And Swinger's like, no, I got a plan. So then the Deaners of Cody and Cousin Jake beat Falabar TJP, Reno Scum, and XXXL in a four-corner. I say sort of mess. It was sort of very sort of complicated. Cousin Jake getting the win with a sidewalk slam on AC Romero. But it's worth noting that TJP, Falabar, and Reno Scum were brawling to the back while all this was happening. So then Johnny Swinger's looking through the locker room to find a disguise. He finds Super Eric but isn't interested, but then found Suicide Sue. Then Ken Shamrock wants Sami Callihan. He's looking for him but can't find him. Ahead of the match later on. Jordan Grace beat Kimberly in a pretty good non-title match with a Grace driver. Then Kimberly grabbed some brass knuckle. Kimberly grabbed some brass knuckles, but Jordan stopped it and hit the Grace driver. So afterwards, Deonna appeared on the screen saying that Jordan will not get her hands on her until Slammiversary. Then there's a video package about how the title got vacated, and that all the promos hyping up the world title match. Well, as this is going out live next week, then Willie Mack found Swinger Suicide or whatever, and depending how you look at it, it could be that he didn't know it was Johnny Swinger, or pretended that he didn't know. And basically he's like, you gotta help me, Suicide, we got a match tonight. Since, you helped me wrestle Johnny Swinger and Chris Bay last week. So, locker room talk with Madison Rayne. The special guest is herself, because she's going to be part of the Knockouts #1 contender match. Okay. Then Tasha Steelz and Havoc interrupt. And Havoc and Nevaeh interrupt. And they had a fight, and Madison Rayne just hid away in the corner. Hernandez is getting into arm wrestling. Now he's up against Rhino. Who knows? So, Willie Mack defending the title against Suicide Swinger or whatever. It was interesting, Swinger was going to go for the Swinger neck breaker, but then he was like, I can't, because then people will know it's not me as Suicide. So he went for the top rope instead. Fell flat on his face. Willie Mack with a stunner. Good comedy work in this one. Tommy Dreamer gave his apology to Moose, admittedly with some backhanded comments, revealing that Moose is a flat earther, which Moose interrupted, and Dreamer basically said, I'm the #1 contender for your title now. And Moose said, there's no TNA committee, and that you're stupid, Dreamer. So who knows. And then Sami Callihan beat Josh Alexander in the main. Pretty decent match. Nothing special. Basically, Shamrock locked in the ankle lock on Ethan to stop his shenanigans, which allowed Sami to hit the Cactus special on Alexander. And then afterwards, rather than sort of celebrating together, Callahan just walks out on Shamrock. And then, whichever world champion is returning at Slammiversary, the news reporter said not only would he be in attendance, but he won't be alone. So, of course, arguably that's dropping the tease for Bennett and Maria, I would indicate, because of the whole, together. Then, of course, it could be somebody as part of, like, a stable. Which, could be Aces and Eights, who knows. NXT's Great American Bash Night 2. Candice and Mia in the street fight was a pretty good opener. Candice hitting the Mr. Toad's Wild Ride off a table onto a pile of chairs. And then getting the pinfall. Mia did sort of get up afterwards and walk to the ring. She didn't have to be taken out, or we didn't see her, disappear sort of thing. She walked out on her own volition. Bronson Reed beat Tony Nese, which very much felt like we needed something to pad the gap here. Bronson sort of squashing him with a splash, quite literally. Then Mercedes Martinez hype. Then Robert Stone's about to announce his new acquisition, except Shotzi Blackheart comes in saying she isn't interested. So he threw his cup of coffee over his shoulder because he was so frustrated, and then turns out, right behind him, hit by the coffee cup, Killian Dane. He grabbed him, threw him into a cart, and then here comes Shotzi in her tank and runs over Robert Stone's leg, which was actually pretty well done. Probably because Robbie E knows how to do the comedic stuff, because he's done it for long enough. Then Gargano beat Swerve. Good match. Gargano winning with his DDT through the ropes, as he does, which was nice. Then we had a good video package hyping up Tegan Nox versus Io Shirai, which will be next week on NXT. So this coming Wednesday. Then El Legado de Fantasma of Santos Escobar, Raul Mendoza, and Rakim Wild somewhat easily beat Drake Maverick and Breezango. Escobar hitting the Phantom Driver again on Drake to get the win. Then clearly, I guess, supposed to be a heel, and with a new pretty good ring entrance. Mercedes Martinez beat Santana Garrett with the Fisherman's Buster Suplex. I guess the idea is she's supposed to be heel, because I think they had some sort of booing from the crowd, maybe. Then the Cameron Grimes Damian Priest thing, which is going to be happening next week in another match. And then the Indus guy didn't ruin it for us. Well, I guess he ruined it for us in that he actually told us the real result. But the rumour was multiple endings have been done. No. Or if they have, they didn't go with it. Keith Lee wins in a very, very good match with Adam Cole. Spirit Bomb into the Big Bang Catastrophe. Gets him the win. He celebrates. And from the I was going to say the Belfry, but it's just a sort of tin shed, the Performance Center. So from the gantry, I think that's the one. From some sort of high up gantry place in the building. Watch it looking down from sort of, it looks like a production table sort of area anyway, with the equipment that's there. But down is looking Scarlet Bordeaux and Karrion Kross. At least now they know who to go after. Because there's one guy with two big targets on either of his shoulders. winning it for his old coach. I approve. So then Fighter Fest Night 2. Kenny and Hangman retain against Private Party. Good little fun opener. The last call on Cassidy. The double team last call, I guess you could call it that. Got them the win. Then Lance Archer versus Joey Janela started with Lance Archer making his entrance, basically carrying Sonny Kiss in sort of a over his shoulder sort of thing, and Janela did some stuff, but it was mainly Archer sort of squashing him on the most extent. Thanks to the referee being distracted and whatever, Janela and Kiss tried to sort of eke out the win, but again it was a 2 count, and the table that got set up earlier on in the match got used. Blackout through the table from Archer on the outside, and Archer takes care of him pretty quickly. Then Darby Allin saying how he's been out the ring for a month and hasn't forgotten what Brian Cage did. And then he's at Travis Pastrana's place and he does a coffin drop from about, 40, 50 feet from like a cherry picker style thing down into the big foam pool that Travis has at his place. So then Shivani's in the ring introducing Taz and Cage, and there's a big black bag and people are going, oh, hold on, it seems interesting. And then he says the right words, because he says that what's in this bag is something that he created years ago, and people are going, oh, what? With his blood, sweat and tears, and out comes, and I've double checked, the real FTW World Championship that Taz had, because Shane Douglas wouldn't give him a title shot, so he decided to declare himself FTW World Champion. No promotion recognises the actual title, but fans recognise whoever holds that belt is the baddest son of a bitch. So I guess it's the equivalent of the BMF belt in UFC. But Taz says that Cage is no longer uncrowned, and Cage is the new FTW champion, and will soon be AEW champion as well. Then, in a somewhat surprise, Butcher Blade and the Lucha Brothers beat the Young Bucks and FTR, mainly because Matt accidentally hits Harwood with a super kick, and using that advantage because of the other men sort of being out on the side because of dives right before it. Penta and Phoenix hit the Fire Driver double team on Matt Jackson to get the win. Looked very nice and brutal, if that's possible. It probably is. Then Alex Marvez and some legal person greeted Big Swole, basically saying how she was served with suspension papers. And apparently Britt Baker petitioned AEW to have Swole suspended for kidnapping and harassment. Which, considering what Big Swole did, for once I actually understand. Then Killing King and Kenzie Page get squashed by Nyla Rose, and then says that she sees all these great managers in the company and most have titles, but so she realizes that she needs to have a manager if she's going to have the belt back, but she isn't going to reveal who it is just yet. But the manager will ensure that she will leave AEW with Hikaru Shida's title very soon. Then Colt's in the training room, and because of Colt being whipped into the railing backstage last week, there is a giant purple hematoma on his left side, as we see it. It's like sort of all the way from the sort of underneath his elbow pit all the way down to his waist. It didn't look great. I was thinking it was makeup in some shape or form. Nope. Apparently it's real. Because of course it is. And Brody basically says, things like this won't happen, if the Dark Order's watching your back. And he did say thank you, Mr. Brody, to him, which is an interesting little tidbit added in there. And again, this Cabana's sort of conflicted, but then also, he's being cleverly manipulated and it's working and everything. Brody hitting the discus lariat, then Grayson basically was the legal man. Daniels hit him with a moonsault, but Colt broke up the pin. Then Lee, with all the madness going on, hits the discus lariat, ordered Stu to tag Cabana, and Cabana pins Daniels and Cabana gets the win for the team. It's interesting stuff going on. So, in terms of then what they announced, Cody's defending the TNT title in an open challenge, which I believe is against Sonny Kiss. They've announced now. FTR take on the Lucha Brothers in straight tag action. The Elite take on the Jurassic Express, and Moxley versus Cage for the AEW Championship. Then somehow Big Swole got back into the arena, confronted Britt up. Swole took those suspension papers, screwed them, threw them at her face. Although from what I could tell, it went more off Reba's face than it did Britt's. The storyline is her nose got broken by papers somehow, which is pretty funny. But then at the same time, I'm confused because it didn't actually hit her in the face. And then Jericho and Cassidy delivered. Cassidy got to do his shtick. Jericho got to do his. Really good. Cassidy going for the... And the finish was sort of as you'd expect. Cassidy went for a Superman punch. And, Jericho had done everything. And it never worked. And the only thing he hadn't done was that Judas Effect elbow. And as he ran in for the Superman punch, bang, struck with the Judas Effect. Jericho pins him. Jericho celebrates. And then afterwards on the YouTube, the Puppy Bowl happened, which was basically just puppies doing stuff in a sort of purposefully designed mini-style ring, because all 7 puppies, 4 girls and 3 boys, were named after AEW wrestlers. The girls Battle Royal was won by the dog representing Penelope Ford, and the boys one was, I'm trying to think, it was Orange Cassidy, John Moxley, and MJF. So those are the names of the dogs or whatever. And MJF won, which Shivani was dejected about. But yeah, it occurred. It was mainly just a thing to get people to, adopt dogs. Check their local shelter and whatever. Because these cute puppies... Well, maybe not those cute puppies exactly, but other cute puppies will be needing homes. And it's just bringing awareness to it. So, it's a nice sentiment at least. And then SmackDown. Miz TV with Jeff Hardy. They kept mocking Hardy and whatever. And, I guess, Jeff, what you need to do to solve that defeat at Backlash is have another match. But what to do? Oh, I know. You should take on Sheamus in a bar fight. And Jeff's like, you know, you're clearly just here to embarrass me, and you're doing this for Sheamus. So you know what? Yeah, me and Sheamus in a bar fight. But at the minute, I want a match against one of you two, which eventually became The Miz. Um, this wasn't too bad. It felt it felt like it went on a little long at times. Well, the fact as well that Hardy just gets a roll up win from out of nowhere. It's like, oh, great, 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 great. Cesaro and Shinsuke basically say how they'll be comfortably winning sooner rather than later. Then Sasha and Bayley make their entrance, but Nikki immediately sort of gets into a grapple with them. They have a tag match, which was pretty good for what it was in all honesty. Bayley and Sasha getting the win, though. Cross basically took out Sasha with a sliding drop kick, but Bayley used this advantage to roll up Cross to get the win. Although Bayley did use the ropes. So heelish shenanigans going on. Then they replayed Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt from Money in the Bank, which we obviously talked about already, so there's no point in touching on that. Then New Day were interviewed and said how, Nakamura and Cesaro are good wrestlers, but they will keep the belt. And then the Karaoke Showdown, hosted by Jey Uso. Lacey Evans sang With My Baby Tonight, off Jeff Jarrett and Road Dogg fame. Dana Brooke did Honky Tonk Man's theme. Tamina did Triple H's theme. And then Naomi did Dusty Rhodes' theme. Apparently, the audience chose Naomi, which Lacey wasn't happy with, and they got into a shoving match, and it eventually became a match. But eventually, they both Lacey and Naomi got to the outside where Dana and Tamina were already watching on, and all four got into a brawl. The great thing is, somebody basically asked Naomi on Twitter, why can't you wrestle? Why do you have to be in these bad segments? Because it wasn't great, in all honesty. And the fact that it eventually came to the response from Naomi was, sometimes we have to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Or I think she said chicken poop. But either way, same thing. In the words of Hugo Savinovich, brutal! Brutal! Then Sarah Schreiber interviewing AJ Styles, saying how there's nobody left to defend against, but then informs him that Matt Riddle's facing him next week, and AJ's like, who did he beat to earn that title shot? And sort of in a nice little comedy bit, Sarah goes, he beat you. So New Day and Cesaro and Nakamura was a really good match. Really good sort of back and forth stuff. And then all of a sudden, Big E got thrown to the floor and Kingston fought Cesaro Nakamura on his own. Then Big E ran back in. They all brawled. Um, and the referee went double disqualification. Cesaro pulls out a table. Big E gets put on the table, and then Cesaro gets Kingston on the middle rope, power bombs him off there onto Big E and through the table to stand tall, because we've got to find some excuse to have a tables match. Huh? 205 Live. Mansoor beat Tahuti Miles because Mansoor is only allowed to wrestle 6 matches a year on television. It was okay, but nothing as special as what we've seen from Mansoor before. Maybe all those other matches he was having in Saudi Arabia was actually getting the right people to put him over. It didn't really gel, this one. Thankfully, the one that did gel was followed next. Santos Escobar beating Oni Lorcan. This was really sort of good back and forth stuff. Escobar sort of working over everything, trying to take advantage where he could. Lorcan coming sort of from the pain and the agony that he was suffering from various moves, to sort of get the sort of second wind, if you will, but just very good match. Hopefully we see more from Santos Escobar. Either on NXT or 205 Live, I don't mind. And then main event, Titus O'Neil has his first match in like months, at least on television that I'm aware of. Beating Akira Tozawa in about 5 minutes. We've still got, ninjas involved because, okay. And then Bianca Belair beat Peyton Royce. With the KOD, but I'm still wondering why she's just having matches every week on main event. So then MLW Underground. It was weird because the show opened with Powerman 5000's When Worlds Collide. They mention that the tapings were done at the 2300 Arena, the former ECW Arena in Philly. The one big note as to this footage being problematic, there wasn't a great sort of crowd noise. Big moves were happening and nothing happened. So I don't know whether they overdubbed noise, because at some points you could actually see them marking out for stuff, but it never reflected in sort of the audio for the crowd. In which case they didn't do a very good audio mix to be able to have it with the real noises and have Jerry Styles do commentary over it, but whatever. Jerry Lynn beat La Parka, which was nice. Then the great thing is they suddenly said that this is part of a tournament, but there was no notice anywhere else in the previous few minutes of the broadcast that it was. Then a hype video for new MLW World Champ Satoshi Kojima aired, with an in-ring English promo that he did at the Manhattan Center back in 2003. Kojima Mania, established 2003 USA, which out of context doesn't make sense. Then Fuego Guerrero, the pseudonym for the Amazing Red, saying you need to watch out on May 9th, which of course timing is interesting. Then we had highlights from Chapter 1, The Rise of the Horseman, which was when the Extreme Horsemen attacked Dusty, Terry Funk, and one of the refs. Then all of a sudden, Richard Holiday advert for his coffee cups and also the MLW podcast network. Then we're crowning tag champions over the next month. Teams involve the Samoan Island Tribe, PJ Friedman, and Dr. Death, Nasawa and Masada, the Blue Chippers, Diamond and Anderson, and Los Maximos. Then the Maximos team did a promo, seemingly having issues with their lines. And then they said, "Is that good, Court Bauer?" So, who knows? Then Tieto Kia, or Kea, I should say, who was mainly sort of in All Japan for quite a bit, defeated Jerry Malice Tweet, or Tuti, or I don't know how it's pronounced, but most of you will remember him as That's the Wall Brother from WCW. This, from what I can tell, was like April when it was this was recorded. Malice died of a heart attack December of the same year, 2003. Then in a really nice bit, Malice flips off the crowd and there's a giant red X censoring the swearing fingers. Which was okay. And then we had MLW shop ad. Then the Samoan Island Tribe, because they talked about Polynesian people. But we didn't know who it was because there was no context, outside of if you remember the footage from back in the day. Then Steve Corino promoting, or a promo talking about one of the previous events where he beat Dusty and Terry in the same night and challenged Terry Funk to a match. And then the tag team tournament will begin in 2 weeks' time. And then the main event, Vampiro beating Christopher Daniels. The great thing is Daniels hit his BME, no reaction because of the crowd mix. Which didn't really work, and the finish came with dueling chops. Then Vampiro following it up with his Sambo suplex, which is basically the rock bottom, and getting the win. And then, apparently Vampiro advances in this tournament, or whatever it is. And then Raven's lighting a picture of Vampiro on fire. And that's how we end. Apparently, according to the details from F4W as to this tournament thing, the tournament was to crown the MLW World Champion from 2002, but they're airing these in 2003 when we already know who's champion, so okay. Now, because it involves the current stuff, they're not including it as part of the stuff now like they did with the anthology. These MLW Undergrounds things. So I'm going to do a quick little recap of what happened in the few minutes that Pulp Fusion video ran that came out this week. Richard Holiday was drunk after his 4th of July party. Can't remember a lot of things. Although what he does remember is Mance Warner showing up even though he wasn't invited, and brought Ted the Bear to flip tables and ruin the party. Filthy Tom Lawler chatted with Dominic Guarini about Lawler's vacation to Hawaii, and Kit Osborne is coming along as well. Alex Hammerstone cut a promo about his bodybuilding invitational. King Mo, tired of that fake ass James L. Jones sounding midget, which obviously is low key, apparently. Oh, I get, yeah, James L. Jones sounding. I'm gonna say he doesn't really look like him. Then proposed a GoFundMe for money to get Loki an MRI and a brain scan. Is this referring to the masks or just in general? Marshall Von Erich informed Dad Kevin and brother Ross about Lawler's upcoming visit to Hawaii. They wanted to invite Marshall, basically wanted Tom to come to the ranch for some training, and they were upset about Kit pretending he was a Von Erich. And so the Von Erichs invited Tom and Kit to do some wrestling. Jordan Oliver put on 30 pounds of muscle. Savio Vega finished a meeting with Court Bauer and the governor of Puerto Rico, and wants Holiday to put the Caribbean title on the line. Gino Medina asked about the rumors of Selena de la Renta selling Promociones Dorado, and Gino flipped the question to hint that he could be the one that's buying it. And then Alicia Atu interviewed Selena, and in response to Conan's allegations about the stuff, she wasn't happy and said that Alicia was a naughty Spanish swear word. Hung up and cut the interview, and Atu just was like, you know, Selena, you unprofessional bitch. Here comes the to be continued music or whatever. And stuff. So yeah, that's your recap from the wrestling. Apart from New Japan, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the news. Sarah Logan and Eric expecting their first child, so congrats to Sarah and Raymond Rowe on that news. SummerSlam seems to be somewhat official that it will be happening, just like WrestleMania in the last few months, at the Performance Center in Orlando. WWE has named Christina Salen. She was the first CEO of Etsy through 2013 through to early 2017. Then was also CFO of United Masters and Motor Operandi, and also became the first woman to be named to the board of Endeavour in 2019, which of course Endeavour is the network that basically the WWE network operates on now. And now she has become the Chief Financial Officer effective from the start of August for WWE. I haven't seen what happened with the share price. I don't think there was too much of a rise because of the ongoing issue with the COVID stuff. The update on that, apparently maybe 30 to 40 talents have contracted the virus, including, I'd say the news from this week, Lana's mother, who I'm hoping she pulls through. She got taken to the hospital. And literally today on his Twitch stream, Miroslav Miro, the former Rusev, confirmed that he's tested positive for it as well. Which of course means that if there was any plans for him to be part of Impact Wrestling Slammiversary, it ain't happening now if he's going to be isolating. In terms of ratings, Raw did its second lowest viewership in history. Admittedly, you could say that that's because it was a holiday show, even though by then it was, what, July the 6th, so was it even a holiday anymore? SmackDown did somewhat better. I'll get to that in a minute. Matt Riddle had to put out a statement denying the sexual assault and abuse allegations put against him by Candy Cartwright. Which is interesting because at first Riddle was sort of saying nothing, it was just being done for his lawyer, but he's now had to do a video to sort of address the thing, which a lot of people are wondering whether this is in respect to this is in respect to the sort of new policy that WWE is bringing in terms of taking the speaking out of stuff seriously, hence, why they got rid of so many of the UK wrestlers, because of the allegations against them. Tomorrow's Raw will feature a, quote, night of grudge matches. So we'll have Sasha and Bayley defending their tag belts against Asuka and Kairi. We'll also have Randy Orton versus R-Truth. Don't know why, but it's happening. Seth Rollins one-on-one with Kevin Owens, so a WrestleMania rematch there. And Viking Raiders versus Andrade and Angel Garza in an elimination tag match. So a little bit different there. In one little bit of New Japan news that is worth mentioning, Minoru Suzuki missed the New Japan Cup Finals and Dominion due to developing a fever on Friday. So because of that, as a precautionary measure, they didn't have him be part of a show. And there's the SmackDown news. So yeah, maybe because of the 4th of July holiday, it was down last week, but overall it was roughly about 1.9. Pretty much constantly for the 2 hours, so it wasn't as much of a drop off as we see on USA for the 3. The demos haven't been great for the young demographic, but the adult, the 18 to 49 demo was up like 25%. And then, as I was going to mention earlier, AEW Dark will feature Pillman defending the FTW title against Brian Pillman Jr., which I don't object for. We'll also have Brandy Rhodes and Ali teaming to take on Rach Chanel and Dina Mate, which, considering how in previous matches Dina Mate and Rach Chanel have not been great, and I don't really get or like this storyline with Ali and Brandy and QT Marshall. That could be a car crash. Then we'll also have Serpentico and Luther versus Brady Pierce and Pineapple Pete. That's interesting because it's like there's a lot of jobbers in there, so some jobbers might actually be winning matches for a change. Robert Anthony takes on Ricky Starks. Probably Ricky Starks win, I'd have thought. Michael Nakazawa versus Marco Stunt. Again, I don't know. And Jurassic Express versus Brandon Cutler and Peter Avalon. Well, that's probably Jurassic Express. More than likely. I'm guessing. And then in the news in brief, Mick Foley was interviewed this week for A&E's biography documentary on Steve Austin, which they're starting the work on. Jay Lethal posted a statement in response to Kelly Klein saying that multiple women brought complaints and evidence of sexual misconduct and harassment by him, which Ring of Honor decided to cover up. Basically saying that it was his choice to use science to keep his dignity and not want to use his platform or give attention to negativity, but saying that because of the allegations, he says he's never and would never sexually harass, sexually assault, rape, or force himself on anybody, and would not use his status to deny anybody opportunities. So he put his statement out with Kelly's comments. OTT Wrestling basically made a lot of changes in terms of backstage stuff, and certainly with the wrestling school stuff in terms of what they're working out after the speaking out movement. JSL, or MSL I should say, we talked about last week. I did briefly mention how supposedly Pillman Jr. sort of was supposedly reaching out because of the whole allegations of the I think the wrestling school that Chasing Rants is a part of. So yeah, MSL's statement basically stated that Brian is not released and fully aware of our schedule, which includes shows in October and December pending the state of the pandemic. We put the health of talent and staff and their family and our fans before bookings, which is why we're not running at the moment. We've been in contract with Brian to relay this. If he elects to perform elsewhere under the terms of his deal, he certainly has our full blessing to do so. So basically implying that if the deal goes south, it'll go big south. Stephanie's going to be on the bump this Wednesday discussing the Women's Revolution, because this week is the 5th anniversary somehow of that. There's a lot of rumours circulating, rumour and innuendo if you will, that after SummerSlam there may be a Evolution 2 to sort of round out the summer. Some more developments on that. It might not be happening because those were the plans before creative and the financial sort of had their way. So it may be happening at the end of August. We'll see. Can't confirm anything really. 2K put out a new trailer for WWE 2K Battlegrounds, actually reflecting that all the characters do have big heads. So it's not just the women. They just really didn't show it very well in that original trailer. It's going to be releasing September 18th, so somewhat early. And it will be coming on Xbox One, Steam, Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Google Stadia, because that exists. And then in other gaming news, Nintendo announced that Natsume Championship Wrestling will be coming as part of the Nintendo Switch Online library coming this Wednesday. Which was apparently originally an All Japan Pro Wrestling game, but when the North American release happened, obviously the license for All Japan Pro Wrestling wouldn't be allowed, so it just sort of became generic. I've heard pretty good things about that game. So you might want to check it out if you've got a Switch. Cannonball, Miz's new, it's not Total Wipeout or um, Wipeout or whatever they call it in America. It's not that show at all, even though it looks a lot like it. Debuted on USA to roughly about 800,000 viewers, give or take, somewhere between 750 and 800. Money Plane, which stars Edge, along with Denise Richards and Kelsey Grammer. What are they doing in a straight to DVD movie? I don't know. R-Truth's Game Show, debuting on the network on Tuesday, which apparently is Sheamus and Alexa Bliss doing trivia questions and somehow doing a scavenger hunt. I don't know how that will work. Vince wished his mother a happy 100th birthday. That family. AEW's announced a Fight for the Fallen t-shirt, with all the proceeds going to Florida's First Coast Relief Fund and the Feeding Northeast Florida campaign. And San Diego Comic-Con will be virtually streaming in a week or so. There will be a panel with discussion with Mattel and WWE with Sam Roberts. A few of the Mattel, Bill Miakina and Steve Ozer of Mattel will be there, along with Edge, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, Ricochet, and Rhea Ripley. There's also apparently going to be a Lucha Libre panel as well, with Salvador Luteroff, the head of CMLL, part of it, and the original Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio, WWE Rey Mysterio's uncle. But the OG, the Rey Mysterio Senior, if you will, if WWE Rey was originally Rey Mysterio Jr. So, finally, in the wrestling front, New Japan, which was very interesting. First time in front of fans for the New Japan Cup finals. Good opener for that event. Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Honma beating Yota Tsuji and Yu Uemura. Nice little brawl, but obviously, you know, Makabe winning with the bridge German on Uemura. Anyway, you know, the green kids lost. Tenkoji beat Goto and Gabriel Kidd, which again makes sense because it's Gabriel Kidd, because Gabriel Kidd got pinned by Kojima because he'd be young boy. Then Master Wato beating Doki, which was okay. Nothing special because I still don't get this Master Wato gimmick. The great thing is he wins with a twisted senton, and then afterwards gets beaten up by Kanemaru and Tenzan having to make the save. So, okay. Then after the disinfecting intermission, Taiji Ishimori and Yujiro beat Bushi and Sanada. Which Yujiro beat Bushi. It's weird to see Yujiro actually winning matches, but there we go. Then Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., Kanemaru, and El Desperado beat Tanahashi, Ibushi, Nagata, and Taguchi. Tanahashi was very emotional because, you know, there were fans watching him wrestle, which I guess was a interesting thing. So Taguchi hit his Bomaye for a near fall on Taichi. Went for the Dodon, but El Desperado shoved him off and hit a right hand and Pinche Loco to get Suzuki-gun the win. And then Tanahashi and Ibushi managed to get the upper hand on Taichi and Sabre and pose with the tag belts. And I'm going, well, we know what's happening there then. Then Naito, Shingo, and Hiromu beat Sho, Toriano, and Ishii. Nice little build towards what we get with the Sho and Shingo match with a little bit. A very big stare off afterwards as well. But eventually, sort of, Yano got freed on one, and Jackknife Cradle from Naito was enough to get the win. Then we had another intermission, more disinfecting, because we're getting ready for the main event. This went half an hour, and there was a lot of ref bumps here, which wasn't great. But yeah, like multiple ref bumps in the same match, which was not great. Which eventually led to the low blow from Evil, and then a big, exaggerated stomp low blow as well. Evil hits everything is evil, gets the win. He then calls out Naito and says, LIJ versus LIJ in the title match. And, Evil, Naito offered Evil the LIJ fist bump, and Evil sort of put his hand up and then laid him out with an STO. And here come Gedo and Ishimori and Jado and Yujiro and all the other Bullet Club people. And the fist became the Too Sweet, and the Gaijin stable Bullet Club now has Evil. Because, okay. And then LIJ run in to make the save and Bullet Club bail. And, Hiromu is upset about the stable. The stable has lost a big guy. So then Dominion from less than 24 hours ago, at least as of this going out live. Kojima, Nagata, and Taguchi beat Makabe, Honma, and Gabriel Kidd. As you can tell, Kidd basically took the loss. Had to submit to the Nagata lock, with the usual Nagata rolling the eyes into the back of his head. Hang on, I was going cross-eyed then. Like that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Then Sanada, Hiromu, and Bushi beat Ishii, Yano, and Yota Tsuji. Obviously, Tsuji, submitted to the Boston Crab because he be young boy. Then El Desperado, Kanemaru, and Doki beat Tenzan, Master Wato, and Yuya Uemura. As you can tell, Uemura lost via Pinche Loco from Desperado because young boy. And it seems like Kanemaru and Wato is going to be something down the line for whatever shows that comes next from New Japan. Then Yujiro and Ishimori beat Okada and Goto. Ishimori hitting the bloody cross on Goto and the pimp juice from Yujiro got Yujiro the win. And then Yujiro leaves Okada laying with a pimp juice as well. So I'm guessing Okada versus Yujiro is coming. Or something. Then we disinfect for the title matches. Shingo beat Sho in a really, really good match that you should try and catch if you can. Shingo hitting the GTR with Sho draped over the second rope, followed by the Last of the Dragon to get the win and retain the belt. And then Desperado attacked Shingo in the aisle after the match, so Shingo versus Desperado, I guess, is the next program that's down the line. Then, as if it wasn't already surmised by what happened the previous night, Zack Sabre Jr. and Taichi beat Tanahashi and Ibushi to become the new IWGP Tag Champs. This was really, really good as well. Sabre getting the pinfall after the jumping high kick from Taichi into the Zack driver from Sabre on Tanahashi, who, when Taichi really sort of had it sorted up. Taichi held Tanner up, and Sabre did not one, not two, not three, but 4 dragon screws to each leg. So 8 dragon screws were delivered. Ouch. But still, it was a very good sort of back and forth match. Really good storytelling, really good ring craft. Good to see. And then the main event happened, which... I mean, the video package was really good. They summed up Evil turning on Naito, then how he debuted as Naito's partner in 2015, with the early years. Then Evil came out with sort of Samoa Joe, sort of like Coliseum Centurion style ring gear now, because he Bullet Club and stuff. Bullet Club got ejected from the match. This went on for nearly 40 minutes, and the great thing is, we even had storyline angle from the commentators, because Milano Collection AT has been a big Evil fan, and he had one of the whole souvenir sickles that you can buy sort of as a fan to attend with, and he was holding it up, still supporting him, and Evil grabbed the sickle and snapped it in half, and Milano was just like, "You bastards." So the ref bump happened, as you'd expect, and Jado got involved, and Ishimori and the other Bullet Club people did, but then Hiromu came in for the save. And then Bushi ran in. Except it wasn't Bushi, because Evil, took care of the ref and choked Naito out with a big sort of hand grip. Then fake Bushi took the referee, which allowed the low blow from Evil. Evil hits Everything is Evil, pins Naito, and becomes the new IWGP and Intercontinental Champion. And then fake Bushi, I guess as you could call him that, is unmasked as being Dick Togo. Yeah, the former Kaientai wrestler is now part of Bullet Club. Hiromu ran in for the save and cut a promo on Evil. Evil just didn't care. And Hiromu was just absolutely apoplectic. He was like, no! He was really emotional, and I mean, I'm intrigued to see where this goes, But my problem is this just another Jay White experiment? Because when Evil had the Never title, at least I think he did, there was some promise there. Still some work to be done. You could see from the quality of the matches that he was having the last few years at the G1. But having Naito defend the title once since winning it on January 5th, admittedly because of circumstances, but immediately dropping the belt to Evil, I don't know. I have my concerns about whether in the long run this is a good move. We'll see. Then to some UFC coverage. So UFC 251 last night. Sort of a mess. Somewhat started at the weigh-ins. Two of the early prelim matches had to be made catch weight. Rowley and Paiva missed weight, weighing in at 129 rather than the maximum 126. And then Vanessa Malo weighed in at 141 pounds, which was £5 over. So obviously they did have some purse fines to be given to their opponent. In terms of the main card itself, I didn't manage to catch these first ones. Davey Grant beat Martin Day with a mid-third round sweet knockout punch. I did see the highlights from it, but that punch was enough to get him $50,000 bonus, which for being in the early prelims is a pretty good deal. Then Carol Rosa beat Vanessa Malo quite comfortably. Two 30-26s and a 30-27. Then Rowlene Paiva beat Zaglas Zhumagulov. Unanimous 29-28 across all three judges' scorecards. And then Marcin Tybura beat Maxim Grishin. Two 30-27s and a 30-26 in another unanimous decision. Then the prelims. The opening match, I think, went about 40 minutes. Even though it was a 15-minute fight. So, the deal here. Leonardo dos Santos beat Roman Bogatev. That's what's worth saying. But within the first few minutes, Bogatov, admittedly in his UFC debut, but he's had other MMA fights. He hasn't just coming in here. I think he was like 9-0, so he's had some fights. He's coming in as a UFC rookie, not an actual MMA rookie. Bogatov raked the eyes, maybe accidentally, who knows. And then midway through the second round, he sort of hit him with a somewhat low blow. Then did it again in the second round. And, the judge, the referee was not happy with this. Then, right at the start of the third round, he managed to do it again. And immediately I was thinking, where's the penalty? But turns out he was being really lenient and not doing it. And then midway was sort of it was in the second half of the third and final round. Santos, has been sort of he's been sort of fought to the ground and he's on one knee. And Bogatov sort of just, I wouldn't say runs him, because there was a clip of that really did the wonders on the internet. But while with one knee down on the mat, he's a grounded opponent. Bogatov decides to knee him directly in the head. And at this point, the referee is not happy and asks the judges to deduct not 1 but 2 points for persistent shenanigans, whatever you want to call it. In the end, that meant the scorecards were 29-26 across all three. I am amazed because of how much dirty stuff that they didn't somehow not get. Because if you then do the count back on the points, Bogatov won one of the rounds. I don't know how, because he just kept kneeing him in the balls and raking him in the eyes for most of it. Then Makwan Amirkhani beat Danny Henry with an Anaconda choke technical submission, something that you very rarely see in UFC. Really nicely put on. And the great thing is afterwards as well, Henry being passed out because of the submission, Amirkhani sort of grabs his leg and lifts him up like one of the other trainers is doing, because of course lifting your legs is trying to get more of the oxygen to your upper body, because that's where your breathing is, in order to make sure he wasn't, to make sure he was not being unconscious again and whatever. Despite the submission, it wasn't good enough for a performance of the night, which amazes me. Muslim Salikov beat Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos with a split decision. All rounds, really. One judge gave it 3-0 in favour of Salikov. The other gave it 2-1 in favour of Salikov, but then the other gave it 2-1 in favour of Dos Santos. From what I saw, I'd have probably given it Salikov 29-28. So I don't know where the 3-0 and the 1-2 comes from, in all honesty. Then Jiří Procházka from the Czech Republic, making his UFC debut after, because it said his last few fights were against King Mo, and I was immediately going, oh, he was in Bellator. And they kept saying, how he's in the proper leagues now, as if Bellator isn't. Well, with his performance, with a beautiful knockout punch, despite having the sort of Conor McGregor sort of cockiness, there might be somebody to watch there in the light heavyweight division. Keep an eye on him if something interesting happens by the end of the year. That performance, as well as the knockout very early in the second round, gave him a $50,000 bonus as well. Then the main pay-per-view, Amanda Ribas beating Paige Van Zant in about 2 minutes with a armbar submission. Ribas was very much like Kylie Ray. She was so excited afterwards. Good win for her, though. I sort of wondered where Paige Van Zant's head was in all of this, because there were some reports, if I have a look through in terms of the notes, saying how she plans to have one final surgery on her arm after UFC 251, and about her contract status, which was interesting. I've added up all the money I've made in the UFC over 6 years, and I could have just had a regular job with the same pay. So she could have had a regular job for 6 years rather than, do what she getting hurt and whatever. But as soon as I saw that thing, like, saying how she's going to have some surgery no matter what happens on her arm after UFC, it seems like, she wasn't coming into this at full capacity, so I sort of saw it maybe coming. So the one that was most people didn't see coming, Thug Rose beating Jessica Andrade. Really good fight between the two of them. Thug Rose with a giant bruise on her eye, giant cut on her nose. Andrade was somewhat similar. Um, 229.28. Gave her the 2-1 edge. The other judge gave it 29.28 to Andrade as well, so it was a 29.28 across all three scorable cards, but with a split decision regarding them. The interesting twist, even though it was a split decision, MMA Decisions website somehow lists 100% scores for Rose. So I don't know what was going on there. Then the title matches. Petr Yan beating Jose Aldo. The referee should have stopped the fight earlier than he did. Aldo, I think, within the last few seconds of the first round, got grounded, and Yan did a big blast to his abdomen area. And throughout the rest of the 4 rounds, you could sort of see what looked to be the broken rib, sort of protruding enough through his insides that you could see it sort of reflected in the skin ripple, which wasn't great. And he tackled him down, Petr Yan, quite a number of times, and eventually it got to the point where he was down for a number of minutes, and Yan was throwing in elbows and punches and everything. And I don't know if it was Bisping that saved it, but he was basically saying Aldo is not going to submit. He's not going to tap. He's not that sort of guy. The referee needs to stop it. And within a number of seconds after that, he did. So Yan is the new undisputed bantamweight champion. Then the one that split a lot of people. Volkanovski beating Max Holloway 48-47 across all 3 cards, but on split decision, so he edged it 2-1. I personally saw it as a Volkanovski 48-47. However, I can also see why other people said that it should have been Holloway's and there was something, off. And Meltzer's in today's daily update sort of gave some notes about it, basically saying how it's another example of the 10-point must weakness. He says that, at least in his opinion, Holloway won the fight, but the media scores were 68% for Holloway, meaning there was enough people the other way where you could have had it reasonable under 10-point system to basically go either way. And as he says, any score from 49-46 Holloway to 48-47 Volkanovski is a reasonable score. But it's not reasonable to say that Holloway didn't win the overall fight. Basically, because there can't be, because you can't have a back and forth sort of impressive performance. You can't have a 10-10 like you sometimes can have in boxing. You have to have a 10-9, so somehow somebody needs to judge, who had the better round overall. And as he says, having like a 10-9 being a close round and a 10-6 being a dominant round would be a better scoring system, but because the commissions don't want that, because they want, they want it to be simple and, bigger numbers and whatever. Dana White was not a fan of the judges. A lot of people weren't a fan of the judges. I can certainly, having seen the fight, I would not object to seeing it again. I can understand why you could say that Holloway won. I personally thought Volkanovski won, but it was a very close. It could have gone either way. In terms of the scoring, Collett gave Volkanovski the last 3 rounds. Um, which is fair. I think from what I remember, I gave it. I think the first and maybe the fourth to Holloway, because in terms of his strikes and his power in that sense, the one judge gave 3 and 4, but not 5 to Volkanovski, which, as Dave rightfully notes, 5 is definitely a Volkanovski round. And Clemens Werner gave 3 through 5 as well. Holloway won 1. He says that he clearly won 2. I'd have to look back at it again, but apparently the BT coverage that I watch has had some editing to it, so it's not going to even easily be able to see. But also, I haven't got that much time at the minute doing stuff. But I can certainly understand the issue. And then a $200,000 bet was put on Jorge Masvidal for winning because he was the underdog. Spoilers, he lost. Usman, it was weird. Gilbert Burns did an interview when he was asked about the fight, and he basically said, people won't like the fight. It's going to be pretty boring because Usman is going to sort of grapple him down, and it's going to be a very mat-based match. And Usman's going to be, pretty dominant. And that's pretty much what exactly happened. Masvidal was down on the mat for somewhere in the region of like 10, 11 minutes out of the 25. Usman had the ground control and everything for the majority. I think I gave Masvidal the second round from what I remember, but all the others for Usman. Which one of the judges decided to agree with me that we're giving it a 49-46. The others gave it 50-45 and said Usman won every round, which I think was harsh because I think Masvidal it was the first or the second, either one. But Masvidal was the stronger in that. In one of those 2 rounds, I would say. But the rest of it, Usman showed his class. Apparently Burns will now be the next contender. Once he's cleared from COVID and everything, they'll be good to go for that. So this coming week, it's all going on because Fight Island is back on Wednesday. So we're going, Thursday. Oh no, I guess it would be Thursday there, but it would be Wednesday in America. Because of course the shows to be airing at the right time in America have to be like in the early hours of Thursday morning in Saudi. In Yas Marina at Fight Island. So in terms of the bouts, a few had to be sort of arranged and changed. Pedro Munoz was supposed to take on Frankie Edgar, but Munoz tested positive for COVID back on last Monday, actually. So the bout's been scrapped, and the aim is to have it, I believe, as part of the undercard or the prelim card for the UFC 252 pay-per-view next month on August 15th. John Phillips and Dusko Todorovic were supposed to happen, which got delayed because of everything, because of the pandemic. And then this past Wednesday, Todorovic pulled out again due to a potential medical issue. So Kazmat Chiameth has come in on sort of a week's notice to be ready. Calvin Kattar and Dan Iger in the main event. Vincentius Moreira was supposed to take on Masescus Bukauskas, and Alvin Dos Santos was due to take on Jack Shaw, but Moreira and Dos Santos tested positive for COVID a few weeks back. July 3rd, which would have been a week a week on Friday. So Andreas Michailidis and Aaron Phillips have come in respectively for their bouts. Then Marina Rodriguez had to pull out of her match with Carla Esparza because one of her cornermen tested positive. Her test did come back negative, but on precaution they scrapped it. I believe, though, the coach is okay now, so they've rescheduled that for the Whittaker versus Till UFC show in a couple of weeks. And then Timo Foyt and Kenneth Burr was supposed to happen, but one day after it got announced, Foyt got removed from the event and was replaced by Jorge Gonzalez, with the revelation being that Foyt was removed due to past neo-Nazi ties, including a January 2016 attack in a Leipzig district for which he was arrested. So it's all go. It's all go at the show. What the hell? So a fair few prelim bouts. Jack Shaw, Aaron Phillips in the bantamweights. In the women's flyweights, Diana Belbita versus Liana Juja. Modestas Bukasukas versus Andreas Michailidis in the light heavyweights. Two featherweight bouts next. Ricardo Ramos versus Leon Murphy and Jared Gordon versus Chris Fishgold. And then the main event of the prelims sees John Phillips take on Kazmat Chimaev. Then on the main card, in the welterweights, Abdul Razak Al Hassan versus Munir Laziz. In the women's flyweights, Molly McCann taking on Talia Santos. In the featherweights, Jimmy Rivera versus Cody Stamann. Then to the flyweights for Tim Elliott taking on Ryan Benoit. And then the main event flyweight bout, Calvin Kattar versus Dan Ige, as I previously mentioned. And then this coming Saturday, same time as Slammiversary and all that, Figueiredo versus Benavidez 2. Again from Fight Island and stuff. Quite a few changes here for various things. The really confusing thing is the main event was in question for a little bit. Basically, he tested positive, but according to his manager, they did a second test because he tested positive 2 months ago, and they think that the test was a false positive. And a day later, the test came back negative. So the fight is back on for next week, at least tentatively. He needs to pass all the other tests in order to properly test. Did I say test enough? Seeing if there's anything else that last minute changed. Oh yeah, Tagir Ulanbekov was set to face Alexander Dolokshuk, but Tagir pulled out last Friday, July 3rd, after Khabib's father passed away due to complications related to COVID-19, because I think he was his coach in some shape or form as well, or certainly part of the Khabib sort of team. And then in turn, Doshkalchuk pulled out for an undisclosed reason. So Malcolm Gordon and Amir Al-Zarbi have come in last minute as pretty good filler. So this is all on ESPN Plus, at least if you're in America. On the prelims, we have Sergey Spivak versus Carlos Felipe in the heavyweights. Davi Ramos versus Arman Tashurkan in the lightweights. Then a flyweight bout, as previously mentioned, Malcolm Gordon versus Amir Al-Bazi. Then the bantamweight of Brett Johns and Montel Jackson. Joel Alvarez versus Joseph Duffy in the lightweight division. Then a catchweight 150-pound bout with Nad Narimani taking on Grant Dawson. And the main event of the prelims, Kadis Ibragimov versus Roman Dolidze in the light heavyweight division. On the main card, we'll have Alexandre Pantoja versus Askar Askarov in the flyweight. Then in the women's flyweights, Ariana Lipsky faces Luana Carolina. Next to the lightweights, we'll have Mark Diakiese taking on Rafael Fiziev. Then Kevin Gastelum in action in the middleweights and the co-main taking on Jack Hermansson. And then the main event, Figueiredo versus Benavidez. They faced each other in February to determine the new champion, which Figueiredo won, admittedly, via TKO in the second round. However, because he missed weight for that bout, he won the bout, but obviously because he wasn't at weight, he wasn't eligible to be actually, winning the title. So they've rescheduled the rematch for this, for the vacated belt. Please, can people make weight? We don't want to wait anymore. Did I say wait enough? Wait. Other little tidbits, if I see them. Dana White's UFC t-shirts. All the proceeds are being donated to one of John Oliver's favourite charities, basically because of the whole making fun of the Fight Island and stuff on his show over the last few weeks, in which he basically made a joke saying you should have called it UFC, SEA, so Dana trademarked it, and noticed that one of John Oliver's favourite charities, the Bob Woodruff Foundation, which ensures injured post 9/11 service members, veterans and families are thriving long after they return home. So all the proceeds from those UFC shirts will be going to the charities, which is a nice little touch. Max Holloway, as well as Fugros Namajunas, are auctioning off their fight kits from the shows to raise money. Holloway's is going to the Hawaii Food Bank, and Rose, I think, was for somebody that had cancer, and she's raising money to sort of help with the treatment and everything with that, which is nice. Interesting issues for Robert Whittaker heading up to his fight. His manager, Chris Day, I think his name is, got arrested for allegedly defrauding a client out of $1.15 million. So hopefully he won't be going to the show. I don't think he can because of the restrictions that they've got. And then, with a little bit more gaming crossover, they revealed on Saturday UFC 4 with Jorge Masvidal and Israel Adesanya on the front cover. Which is coming out on PS4 and Xbox One on August the 14th. You're launching a game with that much literally a month's notice that you're wanting people to be excited about. That seems worrying. Two, most people having seen the footage say it just looks like a reskin of UFC 3, which if you know EA sports games, that normally is a common thing. And then along with Bruce Lee just being generally in as a playable character now, also we're going to have Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. How are we going to animate them kicking the shit out of people? They don't normally do that because they be boxers. If EA wants to make a boxing game, make a boxing game. Don't stick boxers in a UFC. Anyway, so yeah. Complicated plans are afoot for the week. So yeah, you've got your Raw, you've got your Impact, you've got your NXT, you've got your AEW Fight for the Fall, and we've got your SmackDown. The other bits to obviously note here. In terms of programming stuff for this, my aim, I'm not, saying this is a Stonewall confirmation. My aim on Saturday, we're going to do partly this in quote-unquote pre-show, but the aim will be to cover, do live reactions, play-by-play, whatever you want to call it. Mainly reactions, I would, at least from my part, to Impact Wrestling Slammiversary / TNA, because the TNA title is actually on the line there, seemingly, with Dreamer, I'm guessing. Mainly as well to see who else is showing up as part of the 90-day no-compete window closing. The belief is at least Gallows and Anderson are showing up. That's the only sort of really Stonewall confirmed ones. Maybe EC3. Maybe James Storm. Maybe Mike Bennett. Although I doubt James Storm, because I don't think his NWA contract has expired if he is signed to one. So yeah, the aim will be to do that Saturday. Hopefully I'll be able to get Billy in to help me, because he does a lot of wrestling commentary. He's done a lot more over a number of years compared to me. And then the following night, again, we'll try and go a little bit early to sort of cover mainly sort of the UFC stuff. My aim is to sort of cover that, as well as the sort of WWE side of the stuff that happened, and talk about it, sort of thing. So I guess the AEW and the Impact, the stuff that's not WWE. So basically, Raw, SmackDown, and NXT will be covered on the Sunday as we build up to Extreme Rules. Sorry, the horror show at Extreme Rules / Extreme Rules / Extreme Rules : the horror show / whatever they decide to call it. The aim is to have the WWE affiliated stuff, including news as well, as part of the Sunday portion. And then Saturday will be Impact, AEW and AEW Dark, and I was going to say MLW, but that'll be like right before it. So MLW, if you are interested in that, might be covered on Sunday to sort of do the gap. But certainly the aim will be as well to cover the results of the Wednesday UFC show on Saturday, and then Saturday show the following night on the Sunday, and then build to the card for the following Saturday, the Robert Whittaker versus Darren Till headlined ESPN card then. So there we go. So the aim is live stream Saturday reacting to Slammiversary and other stuff beforehand, and then Sunday Extreme Rules horror show reactions, as well as other. So it's sort of a two-part, if you will, wrap up combined with reactions to the pay-per-views slash network specials, whatever you want to call them. On top of that, there's going to be a few gaming videos from me, I believe, over the week. Still need to shoot a couple of them regarding the Devolver Digital and the Ubisoft events. Ubisoft events in more ways than one, which will be talked about as well. Along with other things. And the EA one is going to be ready to go up somewhat soon. I'd say the next day or so. I'm trying to stagger it so there is enough there to go along with Owen Sip and Snack if he has got any in the can. AJ's movie reviews and verses. Maybe awards coverage. If not, you can still, catch up on the old coverage. I will still, be proud that I marked out for Parasite winning. Director Bong and all that. But yeah, there's a lot of content here on the channel. We're either going to be in the sidebar on the side if you're watching this on archive, or just, go to the channel if you want, hit a subscribe, hit the like button, all that stuff. But yeah, I'd say that is all for this week. In a world where there are so many podcasts, Owen and myself and AJ, I guess, even though the wrestling isn't really his big thing, happy that you joined us here for a podcast. Thanks everybody out there for watching or listening, whatever you do, on archive, or some people did show up live and whatever. And with that being said, until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all we've got to say about that. And as ever, everyone is different, everyone is good. That's Tokyo Cyber Squad. Yes, sir.